Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank goodness.
I know, I was like, the time was like, I didn't even realize what time it like once I looked at the computer and it was like, it's showtime. I was like, oh goodness. Hold on, I'm just getting into
Every
YouTube.
time I have a tech issue.
Well, it's okay. You got it resolved. You sound loud and clear too. Hold
Okay,
on, I gotta switch accounts on YouTube real quick. All right, so let's see here. We are in.
I know Criminal Mind, Pecan.
Oh, Pecan, I was just thinking about you the other day. I was like, I have not seen you in so long. I was really, really thinking about you.
Well, we're kind of all over the place now, so.
Yeah. But I know, but I haven't seen her. Well, nobody's really been live. Sorry, I had a quick echo for a second.
Hey, Kaiser.
Kaiser
I hope I'm saying that
Sosa.
right.
Kaiser Sosa. I think that's how you say it. Howdy, howdy. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. I know we're wrapping up spring break here, so I feel like, and I go back to work Monday and I'm dreading it. I haven't turned my other cell phone on. I cannot imagine the text messages and voicemails. I did like a recording saying like, I am off. If you leave a voicemail, I will not retrieve it until the 25th. So please call the office because, I didn't want people just thinking like I was ignoring them, but still, you know how people are.
Gen X.
Hey, Gen X. Hello, everybody. So you want to kind of give a little rundown of what we're going to be doing today?
Sure. So I'm going to start telling about a case that's local to me that happened a few years back, and it's not very in-depth case, so I hope to be pretty quick. And then we're going to kind of go from that to talking about what makes a cult, why people fall into cults, and kind of looking at some of the behaviors we're seeing on YouTube lately that are kind of cult-like, and kind of putting together what is a cult and why do people fall into it with that, kind of combining it. So
yeah, I think it's super appropriate because we happen to see like people. I mean, there's a lot of ways people can look at things as cults. I'm sure people look at religions and, even more, the traditional religions as kind of a cult at times. But I think this is just my opinion before you get started. I think what makes a big difference is when you believe in whatever the cause or the person is so much that you can't see what's wrong or the bad side of it, or see, the non-truths, that you just basically brainwashed is the best way to say it. I hate using that word, but it really is what it is. Right. Or you're just like blindly following either a narrative or a person or a lie because you just refuse to see the truth.
Right. It's kind of like completely buying into someone else's mindset and discounting yours completely. It doesn't matter what you've grown up knowing or what you've learned as an adult. You get into this mindset of the person you're following, and you will, whatever they like, you like, whatever they approve of, you approve of. It's kind of scary, and it's happening a lot on YouTube. All right, you want me to start, Audie?
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. Yes, get started. I'm sorry.
So we're kind of taking turns with our weeks. We kind of do a case where one of us talks a lot and the other doesn't. And so this is my week. Audie's a lot more interesting than I am, so I'll try to keep it short.
Oh, stop. I just blabber.
Okay, so this is referred to, I've seen several different headings for it. The vampire clan murders, vampire cult murders. I think there's been a documentary and then even a movie, which I did not realize that there was actually a movie based on this as well. So, and this takes place in Murray, Kentucky. And I don't care. I live in Kentucky. I don't care. Whatever. And growing up, I remember knowing about this and being told to avoid certain areas because that is where they had their meetings. So this was kind of touched my life growing up. So that's why I had so much interest in it. So the interesting thing about Murray is it's a pretty small town, but it does have one of our local colleges, Murray State University, and it's home to the National Scouting Museum. Super interesting. And it's referred to as part of the buckle of the Bible Belt. And it is a very conservative Christian-based area. So,
do you want me to share anything yet, or do you want me to wait?
However you want to do it.
Because there was like some of those I'm going to put one of those pictures up. The pictures of who you're talking about. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
So the main person that this is focused on is Rod Ferrell. And Gen X, I'll link the movie in the description of this when we're done so that you can find it. Because I haven't even watched it. I want to. So Rod Ferrell was born March 28, 1980 in Murray, Kentucky. So his mother, Saundra Gibson, was raised in a very strict Christian home. And like her parents did not approve of makeup, of movies, dancing. They were very strict. I think they were actually Pentecostal. So she met Rod's father, Rick, in high school. Audie, you know you're not muted, right?
Sorry. I know. I just took a big sip of my. I'm sorry. I just took a big sip of my tea. I'm sorry, and it's probably CJ's movie, Frozen's on in the background. Hold on. Carry on.
She met Rod's father, Rick, in high school, and they dated for about a year, and she found out she was pregnant. So they got married for 3 weeks after she had Rod, and divorced after 3 weeks. So, what the heck? Sorry. Rod never met his father or doesn't remember his father. And his mom had trouble holding down jobs. She moved frequently. She had a lot of different relationships. And including a brief second marriage. She worked as an exotic dancer and a sex worker, and her and Rod moved a lot and sometimes stayed with her parents. And so the thing with that is, well, let me go back a second. So when they were living with her parents, she would tell him that he didn't have to listen to her parents or obey them. And she described her own parents as being mentally and emotionally abusive and made her life a living hell. So Rod's relationship with his mom was interesting, and it was described as complex and at times inappropriate. They had an unusual relationship. And she actually introduced him to the world of the occult and vampirism. I don't know how you say that.
Vampirism.
Yes.
Vampire. It's actually, I've been watching obsessively a vampire show. So it's vampirism. Let me say it with a little Transylvanian flair.
So that picture right there that you're seeing is actually him and his mom. So they had an interesting relationship. And so the thing with them living with her parents is that Rod claimed that he was molested by his grandfather and his grandfather's friends when he was 5 years old. So he claimed that his grandfather was a member of a cult named the Black Mask. And he said that they told him that he had been chosen as the guardian of the Black Mask, and the guardian had to become one with everyone in the cult. And so he was molested by multiple members of this cult. Now, his mother and his aunt also claimed that they had been molested by their father. No charges were ever filed against him. So Rod's mother got into a relationship with a man in Eustis, Florida. They moved there for a brief amount of time, and when the relationship ended, they returned to Murray. Now, Rod was obsessed with death, and he states that he fantasized about death since he was a young child. After moving back to Murray, Rod was 15 years old. He formed a friendship with a fellow high school student, Jaden Murphy. And this is kind of where things started going downhill for Rod. Jaden dressed in black and was known for his interest in the occult and beliefs. Now, he was head of a group of teenagers who liked playing the live-action role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade, which I had never heard of. They also engaged in real-life vampiric behaviors. So Jaden described his group beliefs, which he referred to them as his family, as a lot of cults do. So the group beliefs were, while they crave blood, they respect life. They don't kill animals or humans for blood. Instead, they engage in consensual bloodletting. Each member cuts themselves with razor blades and allows the other members to taste it. Now, I'm going to note here, Jaden's group was not connected to these murders. This was before the murders occurred. And Jaden and this group stuck out in this conservative Christian community like a sore thumb. In January of 1996, Jaden invited Rod to cross over, which is an initiation ritual. So during this, he took Rod to a cemetery where they stood underneath a tree that Jaden declared was sacred for some reason. Jaden made a small cut in his arm and instructed Rod to do the same. They drank each other's blood and meditated for a few hours. And this was the initiation. And after this, he's a vampire.
Yes. And I think just also to keep in mind, I mean, it's a little bit later in like the timeline, but this was still coming off like the tales of satanic panic. Like, yes. It wasn't the 80s where I think it was at its worst, like when the the Memphis 3 and all that kind of stuff, but it was still very taboo to be quote unquote gothic. And that's how they referred to themselves. And I remember listening to one of the documentaries where they talked about like pretty, we like to wear dark clothes, trench coats, makeup sometimes, things like that, which today I feel like is a very kind of accepted like culture, like way of dressing and lifestyle and stuff. But then I think people were still very obsessed with like the Satanism and like, especially in the Bible Belt, where they were just wanting to protect their the youth. I mean, now I don't know if you saw it, but the guy that owned the skating rink in Murray, he was just the other extreme, right? Like he was like, I think Pentecostal, and he kept like referencing like a place for kids to hang out where they could live a pure life, but just like his verbiage and the way that he spoke about it, you could tell it wasn't just like, oh, a place for kids to have fun. It was like an indoctrination, like another place where they can indoctrinate youth. But
Yes.
I don't know. I just, that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, it's very much that way there. There's, it seems like every block there is a church. It is definitely stood out in that community if you were dressed in all black and wore eyeliner and things like they did, which, yeah, today wouldn't probably get a second look from anybody. Okay, so at this point, Rod's now a vampire and a member of Jaden's family. And Rod kind of looked at Jaden as a father figure because he never really had that. And the only rules that Jaden had for the family was that they put their family first, their family, the family, and be completely loyal. In May of 96, Rod's mom walked in and found him carving an upside-down cross in his chest with a razor blade. Oh no, Mo. That's not good. Rod's behavior was becoming more erratic, and Jaden said he started to limit contact with Rod after he watched Rod kill a cat violently. And I'm not going to go into detail about that because animal.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible.
Disturbs me.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that, like, to me, it speaks about, like, it kind of does attest to what Jaden, right? Is his name? What he said all along, like what his vision of this vampirism family or whatever we're calling it, like what his vision was for that versus what Rod's vision was, because he was able to recognize, like, oh no, that is wrong. That's too far. Like that, we're not into that. So it kind of makes sense that that's when the things started to fall.
Yes. And Rod was also starting to experiment more with drugs, and that included LSD, heroin, and PCP. So along with the violent behavior, of course, the drugs with the hallucinations and things increased his tendency toward violent behavior. So also in May of 96, Rod was suspended from school for skipping school, smoking on campus, and disruptive behavior. Rod's mom at that time filed a beyond parental control report on Rod, which I have no idea what that is or what it does. But she stated that Rod was verbally abusive to her, threatened to kill her, and was involved in a satanic cult. So September of 96, Jaden and Rod got into a physical altercation. It was said that Rod verbally threatened Jaden, and Jaden grabbed him, shoved him against a wall. Rod pressed charges, and Jaden actually served 6 months in jail for the assault. And at this time, he was banished from Jaden's family. Now, in November.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I found if you're curious, this is a Kentucky thing. It's a Kentucky law, I guess, or it's something they can use in family court where it says the child's beyond the control of parents means a child who has repeatedly failed to follow the reasonable directives of his or her parents, legal guardian, or person exercising custodial control or supervision other than a state agency, which behavior results in a danger to the child or others, and basically you're asking the state to intervene. So just a little FYI. Apparently, I was going to say, apparently if like your kids are getting too much for you, you can ask the state. You can file a petition, and under Chapter 645 of the Family Code, and I guess the state can intervene on your behalf. It probably has to do with maybe getting them committed, I'm thinking, or institutionalized, something like that, or get them into like an RTC. But yeah, it's a Kentucky thing.
Interesting. So in November of 96, Rod's mom was arrested for, and this is soliciting rape and soliciting sodomy. And this was after she sent sexually explicit letters to Jaden's 14-year-old brother. Now, she was 34 at the time.
Was this her son? Her 14-year-old was her son or the father's son,
No,
I think?
It was Jaden's.
Oh, Jaden's.
Brother.
Jaden's 14-year-old brother. Okay, yes. He was Rod as an only child. Okay, so one of the vampire family members. Okay.
And Jaden's mother found the letters and pressed charges. It was later discovered that Gibson, Rod's mom, had also set up a shrine in her home with pictures of the 14-year-old, candles, and incense. So, really weird.
I wonder if they were having, obviously, she was found guilty, so, right, or charged at least with this, of whether there was an actual relationship, who knows. But isn't that interesting, the way that those charges are worded? Because I think this has to do with, if it was a male and a female, like an adult male and a female child, I wonder if it would have been different. Yeah. Because I feel like it's looked upon different. That's a whole nother thing for another day. But I do feel like it's not, I don't know, it's looked at differently by some people. I was
looking at those charges and I was like, that
is strange. But rather than child porn, I don't know what else it would be. Or, I don't know if there's a grooming law. But yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, she's obviously was not well. And this history on her behavior speaks volumes on why her son is or was what he, becoming what he was becoming.
Yes. So at this point, Rod had started recruiting members for his own cult. And so some of the first members were his friend Scott Anderson, Dana Cooper, and his girlfriend Charity Kesey. So around the same time, Rod had started to be investigated for a break-in at the local animal shelter. Bye, Pecan. Thanks for stopping in. There was a break-in at a local animal shelter where more than 20 dogs were abused and 2 puppies were mutilated. One was killed and one had to be euthanized because it was so badly mutilated. So they had interviewed Rod, and apparently he had gone to school bragging about this. So they were planning to bring charges for cruelty to animals in the 2nd degree and criminal burglary in the 3rd degree on Rod. And he knew that things were closing in on him. But let me back up a little bit. One of the statements that he made when he was interviewed later was talking about how he chose the members for his clan. And he stated that he looked for members who were physically weaker than him and more insecure with themselves than him. And he brought them in by offering them somewhere to belong, somewhere to be accepted, and to be part of a family that took care of each other. And I feel like that's a running theme for any kind of cult or clan, that you find people that are looking for something and you fulfill that for them. And that's exactly what he did. I think he was so insecure himself that he went for weaker and more insecure people so nobody could challenge him. Oh, I thought you were going to say something, Maudie.
Oh, no, I was just, no, I'll wait till we get into cults as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as far as Rod's clan, it was believed that he had 25 to 30 members at one point. Their meetup spot was the Vampire Hotel, which is a dilapidated concrete structure in the middle of the forest in the land between the lakes. I have been to this. It's extremely creepy. It is it's a hike. It's the middle of the woods, and it's now covered in graffiti, but it's extremely creepy. I do not plan on returning there. Some other things, Rod went by the name Visago, which is from the demon name Vasigo, who was third in command of the spirits of Satan's army. He actually believed he was 500 years old and had special powers. And then as initiation to his clan, Rod would cut his arm and force the new recruits to drink his blood. So the short period where he had lived in Eustis, Florida, he had made a friend, Heather Windorf, and he had kept in touch with her via phone and letters. Remember, this is the 90s, so we're not texting and cell phones. And she was frequently complaining about her parents and wanted to get out of her house, and made a comment that her father was hurting her. And Rod perceived this to mean that she was getting molested by her father, probably because of his own past. So he was wanting to get out of Murray because he knew this was about 6 weeks after the animal shelter break-in. He was afraid he was going to get caught. They wanted to go to Louisiana, where they could live amongst other vampires. I didn't know that was a vampire place, but apparently so. So Rod,
I'm gonna
Dana,
chime in.
Charity,
Really quick, New Orleans again, because I've watched vampire TV lately. Apparently, is like the vampire capital of the world.
Oh, I didn't know.
Along with witchcraft and apparently werewolves, but mainly vampires is like a big thing there. Like if you go there now, that's like a huge part of their tourism, like vampire tours and vampire this and vampire that, as well as of course like the voodoo and the witchcraft. But it's just as much of a big part of that history, I guess, is the best way to explain it, because they really have embraced that, whether it's just to make money as a tourism thing, but yeah, it's a accepted lifestyle.
I watched The Lost Boys, and I thought California was the vampire capital.
It's New Orleans. Nope. Well, maybe the more modern day, like the True Bloods, but I think like the history will go back to like a lot of that stuff has like Louisiana in it. So yeah, interestingly enough.
I knew there was a big occult
yes
following down there, but
yeah,
didn't realize the vampires.
Yep.
Okay, so Rod, Dana, Charity, and Scott put all their money together, which wasn't much, and took Scott's car, planning to travel to New Orleans with a quick stop in Florida to pick up Heather, who was just planning to run away from home. So they arrived in Florida, met up with Heather down the road from her house. They went to a local cemetery where Rod and Heather went off alone to perform a crossing over initiation. And Rod admitted to using LSD before the ritual. So the car was now a little cramped because they had more people, and they had a flat tire. So this is when they decide that they're going to take Heather's parents' vehicle. So the girls stayed in the car, parked down the road a few miles. Rod and Scott entered the home through the garage. Rod picked up a crowbar in the garage just in case, and they entered the house looking for the keys to the vehicle and to search for any valuables they could sell because they needed money. Heather's father, Richard, who was 49 years old, was sleeping on the living room couch in front of the TV. When Rod is interviewed about this later, he talks about all of this in very great detail, and he's very calm and casually talking about this, and it's super creepy. So he states that it was a rush, standing over his victim who was sleeping and had no idea that Rod held his fate in his hands. He said he stood there for several minutes just watching the sleeping man and decided to take his life. He didn't wake up. He didn't try to attack him. He just decided he could do this, and he felt like a god with this man's life in his hands. So he bludgeoned her father to death with a crowbar. He said later it took 20 minutes for him to die, and Mr. Windorf had 22 wounds to his head. Several went through the skull and penetrated brain. He also had multiple rib fractures and a V burned into his chest. After killing Mr. Windorf, they went on to search the house for more valuables. Rod was going into the kitchen and he came face to face with Heather's mom, who was 54 years old. She demanded to know what he wanted, and as he approached her, she had a cup of hot coffee that she threw on him, and she also clawed his face. Now, Rod claims he had no intention of killing her until she scratched him. After that, he proceeded to beat her to death with the crowbar also. She was beaten worse than Mr. Windorf and was almost unrecognizable, likely from the rage of Rod's mild injuries. She had 21 wounds to her head, multiple penetrating skull and brain, and her brainstem was severed. And Rod said Scott just stood by and watched as he killed them both. After killing the couple, Rod took their credit card, they took the vehicle, and met up with the girls. Now, by all accounts, Heather wasn't told that her parents were dead until they almost were to Louisiana. So everyone in the vehicle said that she did not know that they had killed her parents. They had to have had blood on them. To me, that's kind of not believable.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely had to be blood. I mean, unless they changed and cleaned up before they got in the car, but I doubt that.
Yeah, if you're beating someone like that with a crowbar, there's gonna be splatter.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
And if they had changed, I think she would notice that too. And because I doubt her parents had clothes that were what they would wear.
Did she ever say what she thought was going to happen?
She thought that they were just going to get the keys and valuables.
Okay, so she stuck with that because I know.
Yes.
Okay.
So they then traded license plates on the vehicles, and left Scott's car that now had the Windorf license plate in a local parking lot. Police put out warrants for them November 27th. Heather's older sister, came home and discovered her parents beaten to death in the house. And I can't imagine. They were on the road for days with very little food or sleep because they were out of money. They didn't calculate that the SUV they were driving was going to use more gas. So Charity called her mother to ask for money from a payphone in Baton Rouge. Her mother lived in South Dakota and worked for a local sheriff's department. Her mother had seen the story about the Windorf murders on CNN. She knew her daughter was wanted. So after speaking to Charity, she notified the authorities. So she set up to wire money to a Howard Johnson hotel in Baton Rouge, notified the authorities, and as soon as they parked at Howard Johnson, they were ambushed by police and taken into custody. And once in custody, Rod confessed everything in vivid detail. Now, there were some accounts from people that knew Heather that had heard her make comments about wanting her parents dead, some that believed she was involved, but there was no proof of her involvement. Everyone in the vehicle stated that she didn't know, and a grand jury decided not to indict Heather and saw her as a victim. Dana Cooper was the only non-juvenile of the group. She was 19 years old. Everyone involved ended up pleading guilty. Charity pleaded guilty to 2 counts of third-degree murder, robbery with a deadly weapon. And she was released March 2006. She ended up serving about 8 years, though she was sentenced to 10.5 years. Dana Cooper pleaded guilty to the same charges, but got 17.5 years because she wasn't a minor. And she ended up getting sentenced to 17.5 years, but she served 13. She got out in 2011. Scott pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and was given a life sentence without parole. In December of 2018, he was resentenced to 40 years due to a new Supreme Court ruling that that sentencing minors to life without parole is cruel and unusual punishment. So he's eligible for release in 2031.
Oh, that's
now Rod.
That's right around the corner.
Yep. So Rod took his case to trial, but changed his plea to guilty in the opening minutes, hoping to avoid the death penalty. During his trial, Rod's biological father was found and appeared in court to testify. He never looked at Rod and referred to him as that child. This seemed to profoundly affect Rod and brought him to tears, and this was one of the only times anyone saw him show any sign of emotion.
How old was Rod at this point when he went to trial?
17.
Okay, I thought he was still a child, or still considered a minor, but I think he was obviously charged as an adult.
Yes, they were all charged as adults. And at the age of 17, Rod became the youngest person to be put on Florida's death row. However, the Supreme Court ruled in 2000 that minors cannot receive the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So Rod was resentenced to life without parole. He was hoping to get the same 40-year sentence that Scott got, but the judge stated that Rod is irreparably corrupt because of the lack of remorse that he showed through the years. Now, he did, at the time of his resentencing, he did appear tearful and remorseful, but the judge was not having that. So, and that's pretty much the case. Now, we've got a clip of, I don't know if anybody watches Todd Grande. Sorry. I can't remember if he's a psychologist or psychiatrist, but
I think he's a psychologist.
Okay. He looks at a lot of true crime cases and kind of breaks them down and gives his opinion on them. And so he did the same with this. He took the diagnoses that Rod got from the prison psychiatrist and kind of explained it a little bit and then relates it to cults. So after Audie gives her opinion, we'll play that.
I did struggle with this a little bit because he definitely has mental illness, right? He is definitely a victim to his parents and grandparents. I believe that because I don't think anybody is born bad. I mean, I know there's exceptions, but I think that he did have this false sense of like immortality or being untouchable or something along those lines where he thought he was just above it. But at the same time, I mean, he was a child. So I think that I don't know if that was ever taken into consideration, but then again, but I think they did. So I saw an interview with his mother where she said, she would visit him every week. And she wrote him every single day, and they're working on an appeals process. Now, this was the interview was done before the laws changed. He was still on death row when this interview was done with her. And that he's a good boy, that kind of stuff. So I found that, I thought, I really didn't see anything further about an appeal and all that stuff. I mean, he pled guilty. There's really nothing to appeal other than his sentence, right, which was changed, So he's not getting the electric chair, which he originally was going to. So I do think he's a victim to a certain degree, but at the same time, I don't think. I think the sheriff was interviewed, and he even said this had nothing to do with cults or vampirism. Like, he's just a damaged child. Like, whether he was part of this cult or not, he would have probably committed some sort of atrocity, right? So, and the reason why that stood out, because now his Jaden and that crew, where this all started, the documentary that I was watching, like, they kind of went on with their lives. I mean, they still believed in this, but I think some of them moved out to LA, some of them moved to Chicago. They went their own separate ways. They never killed or hurt anybody. So I don't know how much that could be blamed on it. I think it created a really good story for the media and everything else. So it kind of checked all the boxes, and it was almost like people need a reason why, and this gave them a reason why.
Right.
Rather than like his mother and his grandparents destroyed this kid. I'll put the so you want me to start this at the timestamp, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let me make sure I have it's up, right? No, it's not up. Hold on.
Because I think that's the most pertinent part. And yeah, he did have mental illness, and he was using drugs that furthered those hallucinations and delusions.
Absolutely.
And
you add the LSD. I think when he was being interviewed, there was talk of him using LSD, PCP, and heroin. So, I mean, what a combination. I mean, that's enough to put anybody out of their mind, in my opinion. All right, I'll play him now. Just let me know how the sound is.
A judge said that he was irreparably corrupt and upheld the sentence. Rod Ferrell will never be released from prison. Now moving to my analysis. As far as the mental health factors at work with Rod Ferrell, here's what the experts said at his trial. Ferrell had schizotypal personality disorder and Asperger's syndrome, which is now referred to as autism spectrum disorder. He had a history of depression, used drugs, and had a learning disability. He was disconnected from reality. He began hearing voices of angels and devils as a young boy. I don't know what they were saying, but I guess the message from the devils resonated more with him. Ferrell made claims that appeared to be delusional, like saying he could smell blood through walls, lift a 200-pound man with one hand, and killing made him feel like a god for a split second. Schizotypal personality disorder is characterized by ideas of reference, odd beliefs, magical thinking, odd speech, unusual perceptual disturbances, paranoia, inappropriate affect, peculiar behavior, a lack of close friends, and social anxiety. Having delusions is not a symptom of this disorder, and it is not associated with violence. In a way, we can think of schizotypal as being on a continuum with schizophrenia. Schizotypal is a cluster A personality disorder, along with paranoid and schizoid. So if we think about this continuum with schizophrenia, schizotypal would be the closest of those three personality disorders to schizophrenia. But again, there is no psychosis with schizotypal. There are symptoms that are right on the edge of psychosis. Autism spectrum disorder is characterized by deficits in social communication and restricted and repetitive types of behavior, interests, or activities. It is also not associated with violence. What happened in this case? How did all these young people get involved with this serious crime? One theory is that they were truly in some type of cult, and Ferrell was the cult leader. Like this whole thing with the vampires was an actual cult. Whatever type of vampire group Ferrell formed, it was not a cult. Ferrell did not fit the profile of a cult leader. He was not charming, charismatic, intelligent, or convincing. His group lacked many of the features we typically see in cults. For example, there was no mind control, no communal goals. They did not target middle-class citizens. I guess one could argue that they did have a novel belief system, although calling it a system seems like giving it too much credit. Ferrell's only consistent ideology was the idea that vampires, crime, and drugs were good. That's not really sophisticated enough to qualify as a cult. Ferrell was very far away from being anything like Jim Jones, David Koresh, Bhagwan Rajneesh, or Marshall Applewhite. Ferrell wasn't even up to the level of Amy Carlson from the Love Has Won cult, and she really set the bar low for who qualifies as a cult leader. Even as a vampire, Rod Ferrell was a failure. Ferrell made Count Chocula look like Lestat from the movie Interview with the Vampire. I think what really happened here was that Ferrell was an outcast, and his odd behavior was an attempt to form a new group where he could fit in. Ferrell had a challenging upbringing. To say his mother was a negative influence is the understatement of the century, or perhaps the last 5 centuries, considering Ferrell was a 500-year-old vampire. Ferrell was accustomed to doing whatever he wanted. His rebellious and manipulative tactics allowed him to achieve his goals. By being antisocial, he was able to attract attention. Somebody cared about him. His poor impulse control and sadism made it easy for him to kill animals and ultimately people. Ferrell's bizarre and destructive behavior attracted people who also felt like they were on the fringe of society and perhaps did not have much in the way of parental supervision. To them, he was exciting. He could free them from boredom and rules. This fascination with vampires was probably just because they were mysterious, antisocial, and outcasts themselves. You never see vampires winning Good Citizen Awards, at least not outside of their vampire group. Ferrell and his vampire clan were looking for some way to be novel, to create something they could believe in, a unifying ideology.
Okay, so I think that Dr. Grande really hits the nail on the head when he makes reference to, he did not have the makings of a cult leader, but this was just like a really troubled human being who was, set up for failure, basically.
Yes. And I did find a interview with Heather Wendorf done many years later, and she actually did say that Rod was charming and that he could tell a lie and talk you into it because he was believable. So, maybe to adults he didn't seem charming because of
but to a teenage girl, of course.
Yes.
And their maturity and mentality is on the same level, so to speak. So I think for sure there's probably, hold on, did I screw it up so that, okay, that's better. That surely played a role, but it's an interesting, I think for this particular case, this whole idea of a vampire cult clan and the history behind it, I really think was probably perpetuated more by the media than anything else.
Yes.
And by him, right? So I don't think, we could never compare this, like what Dr. Grande had said, to Jim Jones or Nexium or even QAnon. I mean, that to me has such further reach, right? I think it's a lot easier to indoctrinate people. I mean, and then we could segue into what we're seeing on YouTube, to indoctrinate people into a common belief that is more tangible than something like being a vampire, where most of us would laugh and be like, that's silly. But if you're promised, I think especially for people, like you said, about him, or not just him specifically, but that needing to belong. So then we look at YouTube where there's these people that just want to be part of something,
Yes.
and we see this happen on YouTube. This word community, it's very, when you think about it, it's almost a manipulative word to say to your subs or to the people watching you, you're part of my community now. Think about that. That can, for some of us, we would never even think twice about that or pay attention to it. But now that I'm thinking about it and that we're talking about it, it sheds some light on this whole idea of the community. And now you're part of this. So if you want to stay part of this and you want to be part of this, never mind the financial side of it, but the the gangbuster side of
Oh.
it, where the control and the, if you're here watching me on YouTube and you're participating in my chats and my live stream, I don't expect to see you anywhere else, right? That's pretty controlling. That's pretty cult-like. I mean,
Yes.
think about that. And then to say to them, and then these people, excuse me, not say them, but then the people, these subs, these chatters, these whatever that you don't know from Adam are now running around the internet, you know, fighting with people on your behalf. That is cult-like.
Yes, very much so. And I've said this a million times, I do not for a minute think that these people are not intellectually with it or that they're any less intelligent than us. I think that, well, COVID added to it, but I think there's a lot of people that are living their normal lives and not getting something fulfilled, whether it be a friendship, a family member. I know there's a lot of people like me with chronic illness that are home alone and searching for interaction of some type. And there's just certain creators that have something that draws people in. You know, I watched a stream recently where a sub that I had never heard on panel before got up and was actually sobbing over somebody losing their platform. And she went on to talk about the things in life that had happened to her recently and how much she depended on this creator to brighten her day and that she felt like it was family. And
Yeah, that's not healthy. It isn't.
No.
It's not healthy when you have these feelings for somebody, and nobody on the internet or anywhere outside of our personal circle should have that impact on you, should be able to create feelings like that for you. And I think this is where it becomes very interesting with like the church, because I do think people, why are people religious? Why do people participate in things like church? And, you know, because they want to feel, you know, I hear people say it all the time, like, oh, whenever I leave, you know, a service or church or whatever, I feel so much better about myself. I feel good, you know. I've certainly done it myself, but I find it, that's kind of something you're growing up with, and it's tradition and things like that. But when you're getting that sort of gratitude from a irrelevant person on YouTube, that's not good.
Right.
That's not good.
And
yes, they want to feel a part of something, Gen X. Absolutely. Do you guys want me to drop the link?
Community.
And it's church's community. And you're not, and I mean, yes, I think there's more, of course we see there's extremes in everything, right? So in religion, there's extremes. But specifically to YouTube, this is a much, much bigger thing than we realize, I think.
Yeah, I know. Especially for the area I live in, because we are part of the Bible Belt. When I went through some medical stuff right after my divorce, I got really down because I needed help and I had nobody to help me. And I will never forget going to the doctor's office, crying in her office because I didn't know what to do. I was trying to take care of 3 kids and all this. And her question was, don't you have a church family that can help? And
yeah,
it's kind of not a good question to ask. And
of course,
no, I don't go to church anymore, especially with 3 young kids. I just couldn't.
Yeah. But even that sentiment is disheartening, right? When you're like, this, I'm here for the science, not for the religion.
Yes.
Like,
and I felt
lady.
terrible. Like,
yeah.
I felt like a bad person because I didn't have a church family to lean on, and I had to tell her that, and I was ashamed.
And I think that's probably very demographic for you, because I don't think like around here you wouldn't hear people talk like that. But at the same time, there's other things like, you know what? Oh, we got somebody to add to the stream here.
Hey y'all.
Hello, Mo.
A blank no.
I don't know why my picture didn't come up. It don't even matter.
Ooh, we got your little booby up here.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. I'll jump in. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, I was just going to say that, there's other things within the community that to me are very cult-like. Now, maybe some other people will disagree with me, but I think it kind of falls under the same thing as what we're seeing on YouTube. I used to find the people, there was this gym and it was called, oh my God, it was like a chain. I can't think of it. Not Orange Theory. It was another one. But it was a chain gym where you would do like these certain classes. And I swear to God, those people were a cult. Like it turned into that. Like they were so intense that you would be at the grocery store and they'd want to talk to you about joining this gym. Like it was crazy. But then I saw like people on Facebook talking about it and like promoting it. And I feel like MLMs are very similar. It creates this cult-like atmosphere. Where it's for monetary gain, obviously, but it's still preying on those same sentiments. Somebody that wants to, it's very predatory. They want to belong to something. They want to be part of something. They think it's going to lead to something bigger and greater. And I think that same technique is used in YouTube. And I think that's what they do to their subs. And then you have subscribers or followers or fans, whatever you want to call them, throwing money at content creators thinking they're going to, I don't know if they just think they're helping the content creator or if they think it's going to build their channel and they're going to be part of some like PewDiePie empire one day, that they're going to be part of that because they were there in the beginning or something. I don't know. But it's really, really, I mean, it's kind of fascinating to watch, but at the same time, like I feel bad for these people. And like you said, it has nothing to do with like a level of intelligence, but it has everything to do with, I think, somebody's ability or somebody's need to be part of something, like you said before. Okay, I'll shut up now, Mo. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, and I was going to even mention, like, if anybody is into like the TikTok battles and stuff, like, I mean, that is just straight up cult behavior. And these people are going broke, giving their money for these creators to win these battles. And TikTok takes 64% of the money.
Oh, wow.
It's ridiculous. And these people are making like, I know this guy, Ramy, he is making like $70,000 a week off of his followers. And these, I know
God.
Who she's in school to be a nurse. She doesn't work. She went and got a credit card and maxed it out of $20,000 on TikTok to have her favorite creator win these battles.
Okay, so you're talking about when there's like the two people on the screen. Yes, I've seen this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't do TikTok.
And her husband didn't even know about it. Like, and she doesn't work, but she wanted to help these people win. And
it's like a weird thing. People become. What is the result? Like, what are they getting out of it?
They get their name called out. Oh, yay! Thank you for giving me.
There you go.
And they just get recognition. And that's what a lot of the people were doing, and there's like an anti-battle thing going on right now on TikTok, where these creators are stepping in and saying, look, stop giving these people your money. They don't care about you.
They don't care about you. That is the thing. They don't care about you. You get nothing. Mm-hmm. It's not even like you're investing in something. You get nothing back in return.
But they said it just makes them feel good. It makes them feel they're a part of something. Just by their name being called out on a live.
Yeah. That's some weird, I mean, I don't know if it goes back to like COVID when everybody was kind of stuck in the house and there was not a lot of interaction going on. So we found it online. But for it to turn into, it's one thing to participate, right? It's one thing to participate in conversations, or maybe even to people that feel like they have to go to battle, so to speak, white knight for these creators and jump on everybody else's chats and everything to defend them. But when there's financials involved and people are bankrolling you or people are maxing out credit cards, they're putting themselves into debt for nothing. It is very cult-like.
it went on before COVID, because I remember like watching with the Watts case, watching CK and JS for
Oh, yeah.
Justice, and the battle for subs between the two of them. But I don't feel like it was as much financially driven as it is now.
No, there's a lot of money behind this now.
Well, if okay, you want to say that, then think about the church. They want 10% of your money every time.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course.
I mean, and I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in God. I just don't believe in like the organized religion.
Sure.
part.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not like hating, like Christian hating or anything here. It's like you feel like you have to give 10% of your tithes, or you're not doing your job as a Christian. You know.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's that old, like, you're buying your way into heaven, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, and I think that's at such a bigger scale, because you just have people, you know, people have died for religion, right? All wars are basically based, you know, from one shape or form. It's usually somewhere along the lines in history has come down to religion. But in this environment, I mean, don't you think these people at the end of the day sit down after they've just spent 6 hours on YouTube fighting with people because they're defending the honor of, you know, I'll just say it could be Natasha Cooper, it could be anybody else. Do you think at the end of the day they sit down and go, what am I doing?
Probably not until they go broke.
No. Yeah.
You know, or whatever. They think that they're, and you know, we've all been there, and you know, hated people just because somebody else hated them. Had no, you know, they didn't do anything to us, but our friend group didn't like them, so we didn't like them either. You know.
Absolutely.
And
I think, but I feel like a lot of us have learned from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, if once you're in it and you participate in it, but you're able to step back and learn from it, maybe everybody in time will. I don't know. But it's just, to me, it's gotten to the point where, I mean, like Hope said, you have somebody crying. I said this on a previous live stream, that there was a woman that was on a panel that said she would take a bullet. Okay. I'm not exaggerating. That she would take a bullet for a YouTube creator and her child. She said that. She said, I would take a bullet for them.
Wow.
That's obscene to me. That is just so bizarre.
Yeah, there's not many people in my real life that I would take a bullet for.
That's what I'm saying.
And I wouldn't act this way with any of my real friends like the people do on YouTube.
Right.
Well, of course not. I mean, you wouldn't be like mad at your neighbor and then go up and down the neighborhood posting their pictures of them and their family on the street posts, or, you know, calling their jobs. I mean, like, we don't fight with our neighbors about the lawn being too long and then declare all out war on them. I mean, maybe some people do, but I think that's the majority. Where in this YouTube side of the universe, I feel like it's sort of become a norm.
Yeah.
Whereas in the real world, that's the exception.
I think that's how I've gotten to where I check myself when I'm involved, is I think about, if this were my real life, people in my surroundings, would I do this? Would I say this? And it's stopped me from doing and saying some things, because it is easier to get on here and act like a asshole.
Mm-hmm.
But
I've definitely
in real
done
life, I would never do it.
Yeah, of course. And I think you also get a false sense of anonymity, which is very, 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 what's the right word I'm looking for? Fragile. Way more fragile than I ever thought. You know, so the anonymity is not guaranteed, but it's also like, there's times I've been so angry, and I'll use work as an example, where like I want to say something to, like, you know, my boss or a colleague, like something, you know, that upset me, that's work related. And you ever get like where you're standing face to face with that person, and then like you kind of like deep breath, you're like, okay, obviously I'm going to be rational, and, you know, I'm not going to lose my shit, because you get that feeling of like, I don't know, like it's just not the right thing to do, right? It's just your better conscience takes over. Whereas when you're on social media or on the internet, you're not looking face to face at anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that does change the dynamic of the conversation.
Yeah, and
it's super consuming. I just saw a Criminal Minds post, but yeah, it's super consuming. I definitely get caught up. I will never deny that.
I think definitely as far as NC went, she has this personality where she's funny. She can be very funny. And she's kind of like your funny aunt that you see every now and then that you can sit down and she entertains you, and she talks, she doesn't wear a lot of makeup. She's herself. So you feel like you're getting the real her, which you're probably not. But I think people see that, and that's why so many people describe her as feeling like family, because
it's a very strange thing to hear somebody say that, though. I still find that very strange to say that a person on the internet that you've never even sat down and had a cup of tea with is like family.
And let's be honest, if you died tomorrow, they're not even going to notice you're not there.
Exactly. That's the other thing. You look at these chats where there's, let's say, even 100 people, okay? Even 50 people is like a lot of people that, like, you're not having individual conversations with each one of these people and getting to know them. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting phenomena that definitely did not exist 10, 15 years ago. And it'll be interesting to see how that, as time goes on, like how that's now part of our society. Like, forget about, like, this is a cult. This can become cult-like behavior. Because, like, it's kind of like where you say, like, well, I guess YouTube's different because with a Zoom, if you're doing like a Zoom with a bunch of people, it's usually people and you're inviting them to get on a Zoom. Like, I remember for CJ's first birthday, we did it because it was right in the height of COVID. But it was like our friends and family. Well, now you're doing the kind of the same thing, but with a bunch of strangers. And then, and they're there. You got all these people there to just support this one person. So, yeah, that's what it is. And, people have described it. I've heard other people say, well, compare it to, well, you pay for Netflix every month and you give Netflix your money every month. I'm paying this creator for my entertainment, but it goes beyond entertainment when you're starting to, like, when it's affecting you to the point where you're crying, or you're declaring your loyalty by saying you're going to take a bullet, or you're maxing out a credit card to, win a TikTok battle. That goes beyond enjoyment and entertainment.
And you can cancel your Netflix subscription and not be bashed for it.
Well, yes, good point.
Or doxed, or
Right. Yes, good point. Good point.
That's the huge part of the cult mentality that gets me, is when you try to leave.
Yes.
And even with that, I'm not sure. I wasn't really watching, but just from y'all talking, wasn't someone like trying to leave with the NC stuff and like trying to just have peace or whatever, and didn't like everybody start attacking?
Yes.
Why can't they just have peace in their life?
I don't know.
It's like jumping. You can't leave a game.
Yes.
Killed. It's crazy.
Yes. You hit the nail on the head, because that's what they did. They said, like, you were, they literally were on a rampage for this woman. Like, you weren't trying to make peace. You were undermining us. You might as well slapped us in the face. You slapped Natasha in the face at her worst time in her life. You did this. That one woman was wailing, crying, wailing, and I will continue to use that word because that's the only thing I can think of, on a live stream, because her quote unquote friends were on another live stream and she wasn't included in the chat, included in the panel or whatever. Like, it's really crazy.
Yeah. It's like your opinion doesn't matter. It does not matter about you. You suffer.
You are here for one reason, and that is to make this cult leader, this YouTube content creator, feel as good as possible, feel as important as possible, and that is your role. And as soon as you decide to deflect, you're going down. And that is literally what has been done. And it's not just this Natasha stuff. We have seen it across the board.
Yeah, because with that Zoo House Rescue stuff on TikTok that I was doing, and like I decided to leave it, and like people said they were going to come to my house and knock on my door and bring street gangs and stuff. And I'm like,
Insane.
what?
Oh my
It's
God.
insane.
What?
I
Yeah.
wish I had a recording. There was a live stream that Natasha did, and she started it out by playing a recording of Whiskey OG, who had written a song for her, and everybody in the chat was applauding the song, was like, oh, I love this. This is great. Well, she comes on after the song ends and is ticked off and is like, he changed the lyrics and it's making fun of me. And I mean, like that entire chat started talking crap about Whiskey OG. I mean, it was literally a 30-second complete change
Yeah, it's
in
so
the
bizarre.
entire chat.
I mean,
And all
that-
because they didn't know how she felt about it and
Yes.
thought one way, and it was cult.
And it's crazy, like people that, that you've talked to every day, when you decide, okay, I'm going to work on me, then you become the bad guy. Like,
Right.
like just the day before, I was friends with you, but just because I decided to, check on me and make sure I'm okay, I'm the bad guy for it. It's
Well,
crazy.
I think that's like when I did that live the other day on Naughty Audie, and I've been very vocal about my opinions of Save Robbie and Siren Jag, and not good, bad, or indifferent. Just I didn't enjoy their content, whatever. I just wasn't into it.
Right.
But I could still say right is right and wrong is wrong, and I thought they both did a really good job speaking out about having the ability to either walk away from somebody or, like you said, take a moment and be like, you know what, I'm redirecting my energy somewhere else.
Right.
Or challenging the status quo and being like, you know what, that wasn't right, or you're misinterpreting what happened here, just calling out the bad behavior, but like you are shunned. It is actual shunning. That's what it is. They're shunning people and then they shame them.
Yeah.
Well, you're not only shunned, you're doxxed. Every private message you ever shared with them is put on display.
Yep.
Your past criminal history, if you have one, is put out. I mean, it's a full revenge.
I was last night in between. I was watching the originals like I've been, but then I popped on and there was a back and forth between two creators. They were both live simultaneously fighting with each other, going back and forth. And I'll tell you what I did. I looked at the chats, and this is another interesting thing we see. There were people bouncing between them, which I know trolls do this, and I know this is part of it, but really just kind of like lying and saying like, oh, she just said you did this. Then Rebecca, oh, now they're telling all your dirty secrets. And then but then everybody else in the chat gets all riled up. Like, we must defend our queen. We must ride out into night and, go over there and mass report or do whatever.
You could literally go on there and say anything. I could go on there and say, Naughty just said you stole $1 million from the bank, and it would be repeated on panel, and everyone would be outraged.
Well, just like I hate to bring up, this stuff in, our community. When I spoke to somebody in a chat, I was the worst person ever for being kind, y'all.
I know.
Kind.
Yeah, well, that we've seen play out numerous times, and I still here's the one thing that this is when I admire people on the internet, when people do things like that, but yet they continue to do them, like be kind, and that to me is admirable, to be able to be like, you know what, I don't care, I'm sorry that you guys are mad at me for saying hi or being kind to somebody, or I was interested in a certain topic somebody was talking about, so I participated in the conversation. Like that, I mean, maybe everybody says they feel this way, but actions speak louder than words. Like you could say,
and that's the difference.
YouTube creator can say that, oh, you guys can go wherever you want, do whatever you want, I don't care. But then on the backside, you're losing your shit. That's a problem. It's the people that actually do it that truly don't allow it to affect them are the ones that are the norms. I call them the normies. Everybody else, not so much.
Well, that's the difference with Mo is you realized that you were being controlled and you didn't fall into it and go, okay, I'll never do that again.
Mhm.
You know, you've fought against it and said, no, I'm going to talk to who I want to.
Right.
And more people need to do that. Be yourself.
Hi,
Don't
Nut
let
Milk. Welcome to our cult.
Hey, no,
And
no.
I had one of those to see, one of my friends or somebody that's on our, team or cult or whatever, somewhere that they're not. And I'll inbox somebody and be like, did you see that they were there? I've done that before, but it's not my
Mhm.
business to tell them where they can't go, you know. But I have got,
Sure.
you see,
I
Yeah.
mean,
but it ain't my place to tell anybody where they can and can't go.
and that doesn't define a person either. Like,
Right.
if I, like, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. Like, I would, of course, say, hey, did you see that? Whatever. We're allowed to do that. Friends
Mhm.
are allowed to talk amongst themselves in private chats and
Mhm.
be totally okay with it. That is not behind the scenes sneaky shit. Behind the scenes sneaky shit is when you're plotting to actually hurt somebody, like take their channel down or dox them or destroy their lives, whatever. That's behind the scenes. Me and you or me and Hope or me and John Smith having a private conversation and me maybe venting my feelings like, oh, Hope really pissed me off today. That is not me doing behind the scenes shady shit.
Right.
That is normal human interactions and expressing feelings and emotions. Okay.
Right.
Now, you then saying, oh, Audie was in John Smith's chat now, where none of you talk to her again. Let's ostracize her from the community. The community. Let's let's go dig up something and put it out there because she was in somebody else's chat. That's when it's cult. That's the cult coming
Right.
out.
Yeah.
That's when this gets crazy.
Yep.
Yes.
And if it wasn't so real, like, I feel like people that aren't involved in this, like people that don't hang out like on YouTube or go into chats and stuff, like somebody that's never participated in this, if they were watching things unfold like in real time, they would be like, what the fuck is wrong with all you people? Like, this is
crazy,
like something very, very wrong here. Like, but it's easy to get sucked in. I think it's how you respond and how you participate that makes the difference.
Because my kid will walk in, in the middle of me watching YouTube and people screaming back and forth with each other. And he's like, what is wrong with these people? Like, he's like in disbelief, like, what in the hell? And I'm like, oh, it's just YouTube drama, son. And he's like, y'all are crazy. And he just walks out. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you see how it is then. So it's like, we can't. I just wish because I think for the majority of like us, like we recognize it for what it is.
Mhm.
But that's like, I don't know if that's the majority or the minority. I don't know. Because the things like, yeah, there's like really like on that side of YouTube, like, and I'm just going to reference the Natasha Cooper side, but it's not just Natasha Cooper. It could be Grandy's Watching. It could be, even like Lycan or Melissa Jade. They got pretty big chats. Brittany's that other one. She seems very nice. Country Joe, whoever. They've got really, really big chats in comparison to like what we would see in the Michael Long stuff. Yeah, much bigger chats. So we're not talking about like one or two people that are loudmouth assholes doing dirty stuff or, like really white knighting, so to speak. It's like 50, 60 people. It's per chat. Like, it's pretty wild.
Well, I'll say one of the creators that we used to follow, at the point that they got memberships in a Discord, I had no income at the time and did not need to be spending money on anything, but I felt left out and I freaking signed up for a membership just so I could get into that Discord and be hanging out with my friends. And that's crazy. Like, now I'm like, why?
But again, you experienced that, but now you can look back on it and be like, okay, I get it now. That was unnecessary. Whereas like you're joining the $30 a month royalty chat, so you could be part of a, a private group chat with 50 other women or men, whatever. Like there's a difference.
Well,
like
and I look back
I felt that
now.
way too.
Yeah. Well, I look back now and, we were in a Facebook Messenger group with this person before the membership thing. And, I thought she was a friend at that time. And I didn't, it kind of hurt my feelings. She started this Discord and she knew my money situation. And I had to get in there to talk with. And,
And I'm
at that
sure
point, I should have realized this person doesn't feel friendly towards me the way I do.
And I'm sure when you found out that I entered that Discord for free, that was a real slap in the face.
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
I
it
am
was.
not paying memberships. I flat out said that. I'm not doing any subs. I'm not paying to be anybody's friend. And then, okay, I got a link for free.
Yeah. So, and that kind of goes back to the whole like financial side of it, where it really starts to feel like, well, that's a very small scale in like looking at it now in comparison to like what we've seen, like where you're like giving this creator so much money to just acknowledge you. Like you said on TikTok, it's like, what do they get out of it? A shout out?
Yeah.
Like,
and no one is given Supreme content to be paying for.
yes,
No
like
one.
the really good content that I watch on YouTube is completely free. There's nothing I'm paying.
Yeah.
I'm just going and watching, that chapter or Kendall Ray or, if it's YouTube, true crime stuff. It's like, there's not a penny that's coming out of my pocket for that. So it does become again, that community, basically it's like the more you can give, you think, or you're made to believe that you become a more important or intricate part of the community, when the reality is you are no different. In that creator's eyes, you are no different than the person not paying anything. They still are not, they are, like you said, they're not showing up at your funeral. They're not coming over for a cup of tea.
No.
So, it's a cult. It's cult-like, if nothing else. It's cult-like.
But what you are doing is you're fighting their battles for them.
Yes.
You begin to fight their battles. That's just like Manson. I love him, but like he didn't lay a finger on anybody.
Right.
His whole cult, fought his battles for him.
Great example. Great example, because that is exactly it is that Manson-esque indoctrination or something, where it's like defend my honor, wave my flag, fly my flag, and go torment people, go around YouTube tormenting my haters. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
And then you get all the blowback from it.
And
instead of the creator getting it.
Yeah. Yep. And their hands are clean. Yeah. For the most part, that is it. But it's unfortunate. I hope people learn. I think I don't know if I was talking to you, Hope, or if it was us talking, and there was a woman speaking how. Oh, I know what it was, because it was about like somebody made comments, and when Natasha said she's getting a new lawyer or something and suing for slander about a woman that like basically gave her inheritance.
Wow.
Like her husband passed away. I think that was the story, and somebody else, whatever the story was, doesn't matter. She had come into some money as a result of
Allegedly
came into some money as a result of this, and allegedly gave that money away to a content creator, or over a period of time, because she was at a hard time in her life and she felt needed. She felt like she belonged. She felt like she was part of something. And it resulted in like a lot of money being put out, and then affected this person, mentally. It's just really, really, really sad. If that happened, that is a really extreme example, but it is still, if that happened, she's probably not the only one. Like you said, there was a girl on TikTok put herself in debt on a credit card.
Yeah.
Trying to win a battle. I was wondering what those were. I saw them pop up, and it would be like two creators, and like each side would be like rallying, and like the little ticker would go up and down. I'm like, what are they're just talking? Like, I don't understand what's happening here.
Nothing. They're just saying, send me money. Let me win. It's not like they're doing anything fun. Now, there is one, they have a comedy Elmo who's a puppet, that does puppet stuff. They do have a few that get on there and sing, like Nikki Nightmare and stuff like that. But most of them are just normal people. And then they say, oh, we're going to donate 5% to domestic violence. Well, what they're doing is, see, they're taxed on this money. They have to fill out a tax form before they're able to pull their money and put it on PayPal. So what they're doing is they're saying they have to give a certain amount to a charity.
So the
that
battle's just who gets the most money?
Yeah. Like they get coins, they get diamonds.
That's crazy.
And transfers to money.
Yes.
But
I saw
TikTok
that.
takes 64%.
That's a bigger cut than YouTube. I knew it was big, but I didn't realize it was over half.
Yep. I got 68.
Well, are they doing something to entertain you?
Well, I was on a live last week and I got 34 cents.
34 cents was after TikTok.
Yay.
After cut, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, after
Oh.
TikTok took their money, I got 34 cents from that live I did.
Lord have mercy. And how much do you need to cash out? Probably $100 or something.
Yeah. I don't even have the button yet to be able to cash out. So
You can't get your damn 34 cents stuck in the metaverse.
it's just stuck. Yeah.
I
that's
don't
the
even
thing,
understand. So they're just sitting there, they give me money, and
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, because you
Wow.
get two content creators, two TikTokers that maybe, they put up TikToks or they go live and talk to their people, the people that follow them for whatever reason. Maybe they started doing makeup, maybe they were there to tell a story, who knows. Then they connect on like a live stream with another TikToker, and then basically you get both people's followings to come in, and they'll be like, I'm here to battle Hope. Basically who's more popular, who do you like better? That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And then like you can
well,
send
that's
these
terrible
gifts.
for mental health.
Yeah, in TikTok you can send gifts like when you tap your screen, like it could be a coin or it could be a crown, it could be like these things that pop up and they're all valued at different amounts. So like I could send like $1 gift or I could send $100 gift. And I think what Mo was saying is like you send these big gifts, then the creator will be like, wow, Audie, thank you
And they'll
so
follow
much.
They'll follow them back. If you send a TikTok universe, which is worth $500, it's worth $500. You pay $500 for that.
Oh my God.
Now TikTok takes 64% of that, but
Yeah.
$500.
Yeah.
And there's a banner over the screen that says Mo Biden sent so and so a universe, and they'll follow you because then they got snipers. They think that you're going to keep doing it because they get so excited. And that's the thing is these people said they were so down and out. They were so sad. But when they see that they're doing something good and making people excited, it makes them feel good.
Yep. There you go. It's exactly what we said. It's that feeling, that needing. Yeah, that need though. People that are in a position, like we said earlier, why would some people be drawn to joining a cult versus others?
Yeah.
Because you're in a vulnerable position where you're lacking something in your life that you need to feel needed, recognized, part of something, and there you go. It's like the perfect recipe for disaster. Really, and these platforms, like it makes you.
I have noticed. I have noticed there's a large amount of people that are really ill, disabled, or like your situation, Mo, where they're not able to have a lot of human to human interaction. And, this is sometimes YouTube, and besides my kids and my husband, that's the only interaction I have with people.
Well, yeah, like your adult interaction, right? So like my husband's gone for, weeks on end. I don't go out and that's my kids and me. So like, I go to work obviously but I'm not like having that much casual conversation where I can just chit chat and talk about things that are, interesting and get into good conversations. Like that's what we're here for.
Right.
But you could see how, I mean, it's just like some of these people though are so unappealing. Like, I'm talking about like personality wise. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why, like, but again, I guess to each their own, right? So I don't know, just some people that somehow generate this, forget the money, just this loyalty is like very strange, because I'm like, what is so good about them that makes you want to be so follow them so blindly into the darkness,
Well, everybody's needs are different. So what people are needing fulfilled is different with everybody. So the different creators offer different personality types that fill that void.
Yeah. And it almost seems like, just like with our situations, Hope, it's like we all have almost like similar stories, and we kind of like clump together. So like people do see that, like just like with Manson, he found people of broken homes. That's what he did to make them their family, and I see that just like with the Ashy Cat stuff, and I hate to bring up, Chrissy's name, but she saw where she could get some money out of that.
Oh, yeah.
So, so she transformed her whole channel into something to, cater to those people. And I just, it's crazy. And we all just like fell in line with it.
Well, yeah, I see how, yes, because again, it comes down to money, right? So like if somebody's seeing, and if you're a friend to somebody, you want to support them.
Yeah.
But again, I think the big difference is when you recognize, wait a second, this is either not right, or it's gone too far, or I don't want to be part of this, or this is not for me. This is not my cup of tea. And you're able to recognize that. But when you start to just completely change yourself to just appease this stranger, then, and again, I think like even in that situation, it was so much more intimate than what we're seeing now, because like I said, we're talking about chats where there's 500 people. I was thinking about this the other day. I know I'm being annoying with Natasha stuff, but I'm going to bring it up again. She would do anywhere from $500 to $1,000 PayPal pools per live stream. Okay, and let's just say one of them didn't fill up in one live stream. It would definitely fill up in the day if she did multiple live streams. That means you're making anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
Occasionally she'd take a day off, and sometimes it was more than that. Never mind super chats and cash apps and Venmos. Was just in those PayPal pools. So I was like thinking about the other day, and I'm like, and when she was talking about her bank accounts getting shut down, I'm like, what bank wouldn't wonder when you're transferring from PayPal every day as a friends and family,
Right.
like these large amounts, like that would send a red flag up anywhere. But
now, is she disabled? Does she get like I don't really follow her. So
no, I don't know if I don't know if she collects disability, but she's always said
claims
that
she doesn't.
Did she say she has disability?
No, she claims that she does not.
She doesn't. Okay, yeah, because I know she has an Etsy shop too and a website, which are also down. So like, never mind her current troubles on the YouTube. So she's literally lost like 1 million channels in the last couple of days. But she lost her Twitch last night. They banned her there. And I know, I mean, geez, it's so easy to get banned on TikTok. What are you struggling with today, Gen X? I missed that.
I thought she was maybe listening behind or something. And
yeah, she might be. She actually might be, because she stepped away and said she came back.
Yeah,
she might be. But the
you have to think how much money she's lost, because she had 3 monetized channels, all of them with anywhere from 200 to 2,000 members. And then she's now got a Patreon, and then the PayPal pools. Like,
oh yeah,
I bet she's freaking out, because that's a lot of money she's lost.
I know, but like, and I
And
know
the
I would
makeup sales that she can't do.
the makeup sales, yeah, I would be just as bad because I'd probably spend the money just as quick. Like I'm so bad with money. But like, how do you not like YouTube is such a temporary, like there isn't a person unless you're really that. I mean, I'm sure like young kids that make it big really fast and stuff like that. But I'm talking about a woman her age that's been around a long time. She was doing this on Facebook before here. Like, how do you not plan for a rainy day in the sense that this is so temporary? At any moment, this is a perfect example of like your entire financial, like if you're making your money off of social media can change in a split second, you know, like
Well, and I'm sorry, but we know how hard it is for someone to get their channel terminated because,
oh yeah,
we
no,
know.
it had nothing to do with mass reporting. She thinks it does, but supporting creator who's changing due to the vibes lately. Oh yeah, that's gonna happen, Gen X.
Yeah.
That's when somebody finds something that makes them either get a lot of attention. I mean, that's basically what we were just talking about, exactly that issue. Then you can't they cash in on it, and yeah, it's frustrating. But you have to just be true to yourself, right? I think we've all learned this the hard way, probably. Like you just have to be true to yourself and say, like, I'm not down with this, and I gotta step away and not engage or not participate. But I mean,
I watched Natasha for a long time and enjoyed it. It's when the money started, when she discovered this PayPal pool thing and how lucrative it was, she changed, and I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, what about the subs and stuff who get shitted on and then go to an opposite side and then
yeah,
like what? And maybe it's my pride that won't allow me to do that, because once somebody screws me over, I can't go back to that. That's in real life or virtual.
Yeah.
What is? And I've seen it so much over YouTube. It's and just not in a small community, and big ones too. And what makes them just forgive and forget about all the harsh things that were done?
Well, again,
I'm wondering,
Oh, well, I think that's just I think it just comes back to the same thing. It's like, I just need to be somewhere. I need somebody to accept me and be part of something. And it's like a FOMO. I think it's a combination of all of that, because we've seen it a lot of times where somebody has a falling out, they run to the quote unquote enemy, divulge all this private information. It gets like exploited or exposed. And then there's another falling out, and then they go back to the person that they just dragged up and down the interwebs. So I mean, it's bizarre, but it happens, and I think it comes down to that person's need to just be part of something.
And and the funny thing is the creator forgives them for abandoning them and going to the enemy. Oh, it's okay.
Of course.
Like what? No, it's not okay.
But I think that's because the creator has the upper hand, right? Mm-hmm. And at that point, like, I think that's also a very manipulative thing, because at that point, I mean, maybe it isn't intentional. Maybe I'm being sorry, honey. Maybe I'm thinking too much like a conspiracy or something, or I'm thinking too much into it. But I think it's also like, oh, okay, you want back in? You want back in my little club? Okay. But now they know, like, okay, well, you got to earn your way back in, or I'm going to be able to, I want to see all the messages you shared. Like, it's crazy. Who knows how some of these people operate, but I think there's definitely a method to the madness.
Yeah, that is true, because that's what will happen. They will show, oh, now that I'm back over here, let me show you what they said about you. Or, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Criminal Minds said, like hate bonding, right? So we see this all the time. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So if, we hated each other yesterday, but today we both hate, the other person. So now, now we can be besties because we hate somebody equally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
I
I
just
think
can't.
it's easier for people to get out, that it wouldn't be so much of this. It's just so hard
Yeah.
for people to get out of these communities because they're afraid. They're afraid of that they'll be next. So they stay.
Yes.
And I
Oh,
mean,
I think that's a big part of it. Absolutely. It's
Well,
the
it's
fear of also. Yeah. You're basically
you get a
captive.
big target on your back.
mhm. Yeah.
And depending on how big the following for that creator is, you now have this large group of people that when they see you in chats or whatever, they all attack you just because you've
Yeah.
distanced yourself from that creator.
Mhm.
And it's crazy. And the mental health factor is such a big thing because a lot of these people that are homebound, it's really hard. Like, I know when I left work, all of the people that I thought friends disappeared.
Mhm.
You know, if you're not able to go out and do the things with them and be a normal, quote, normal person, they don't have time for you. And you feel very abandoned, and you turn to YouTube and you find people that you think are friends. And this was just initially coming into it. I realize now that's not a thing. But it's really harmful to mental health to come to YouTube and then get treated this way here. I don't know, that doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Mhm. And like I don't like the same people that y'all like, but we can sit and have a discussion. And if y'all don't agree with me, y'all are okay with that, and we just keep going. And like, why can't everybody? It's
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just like,
Well, I think what you're trying to say is that we can be mature. It's like we don't have to be, we're not in a cult. So
Right.
we don't need to just all be aligned or like or enjoy or converse with the same individuals, and that's it. And, in some, we weren't, and I think the people that we associate with or we talk to are kind of all on the same wavelength. Like, to listen, we could have our conversations and our chats and our discussions, and that can be kept separate from anything else. And it doesn't bother you, me, or anybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to affect the relationship, because it shouldn't, because it doesn't, it's not. Mature adults don't allow it, or secure people that are secure in their like friendships and stuff, right? Because I think that's another thing where people maybe are so insecure and so paranoid that they just, I mean,
I don't know if she meant to do that or not.
yeah, I didn't mean to mute myself. That's like another characteristic, right? Where it's like this secret insecurity of like being so paranoid of some of your friends or your people turning on you or backstabbing you that you can't even trust that they can be friends with other people. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. I gotta though jump down, guys, just because little one's waking up here and she's like, always fussy when she wakes up.
Yeah, I got to go push a wheelbarrow to the woods. My daddy's out in the rose gardens again.
Oh,
There's grapevines in the rose garden, and he does not want them there.
he's
So
getting them out come hell or high water.
he's getting them out, and he's getting in there and stuck. And the boys are in Florida, so I'm having to
Yeah,
push.
you better get out there and make sure there's no incidents.
Right. There's always an incident here. But the competition. I enjoyed the competition, the conversation. It was.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's something we should keep an eye on, and then we can always like talk about if we ever cover any other cults.
Mhm.
Like
Oh, we will.
Nexium. I mean, I'm kind of bored with the Nexium stuff. I watched
Yeah.
too much on that.
Yeah.
the Greg Ranieri stuff, but there's so many that's existed in time that have like that are real extreme real examples, like even the Manson stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So, oh, sorry guys.
Hey,
Okay, I'm gonna jump down.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk.
All
later.
right, I'll talk to everybody later, and we'll see you next time. And have a really good Saturday. And if we want to gossip, we can go on Nutty
And a good
Yachty.
weekend.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.
Yep.
Later. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.